Welcome to All About the Game podcast in association with Clinched. You can download our podcast on all platforms every Friday. Clinched is a sports app that helps link clubs with coaches. If you were a coach in rugby, soccer or GAA and you are ready for your next role or your first role, download and sign up to Clinched app for free today.
And Leinster looking to counter here. Seán O'Brien, well, if there's one player who can take a hit from Courtney Lawes and stand and see it off and bounce off.
Raised thanks to the accurate free-taking of John Doyle. 2 points between the teams.
Football is hurling, and maybe in that moment should have slipped maybe hurling to go, like, have a conversation and say, I want to make that decision, but it ultimately comes down to them.
Hello, and you're very welcome back to episode 14 of All About the Game podcast in association with Clinched. I'm your host, Podge, and I'm joined by Johnny Dial and Seán O'Brien. What's the crack, lads? How's all?
Yeah, good. Another week coming around, Podge, very quick, and we're back again talking about all things sports. So, looking forward to the chat. Yeah,
Feel a bit left out, so I do now, because you have your new Clinched merch on. Johnny has.
I'm celebrating Kildare hurlers.
You've all the initials and everything. What's that?
The podcast.
I may get a Carlo one.
Podcast doesn't work out. At least I got out a t-shirt.
Yeah, I thought you'd have. I suppose it wasn't a great weekend for Carlo. I've been gone out of Talton, so.
Yeah,
leave your Carlo jersey at home for this week.
Your Carlo jersey at home, yeah. They didn't have a good week, no. Didn't have a good 2 weeks, did they?
No.
True enough. After been going well, and it's just that loss on the last to Longford really cost them, because in fairness, Sligo and having to travel to Sligo and put up a good fight, but just fell short in the end. But I suppose, go on.
I wonder will we see Joe Murphy back in Naas. I don't think Naas have got a manager since he left.
That's true, actually. Yeah.
So I wonder. I was thinking about that actually when I saw Carlo beating. Would Joe head back up the road to Naas? Double jobbing, little nixer for him.
It's an interesting one because he wouldn't have missed that much really.
No.
A few league games.
Yeah.
Well, how long is he in Carlo? 6 weeks? 7 weeks?
Hard to need. I'd say it's probably 7 or 8 weeks.
I'd say that's odd, yeah.
He could head back up, especially when he hasn't been replaced. It was all talks of who was going to take over Naas, but I haven't heard anyone that has.
He won't need to do anything in Carlo till next season.
No. So interesting.
Christmas.
Interesting to see.
Yeah.
I suppose it was a good week was with not so much for Carlo, but it was a good week for Leinster. Seán, job done.
Yeah. Good performance. Good bit of bite in the game, to be honest, physically. So the boys fronted up really well, which was nice to see. And good performance against a tough Glasgow side. So pleased with that result, and into the final now this weekend, which is in Croke Park and against the Bulls, who we thought would probably win that match against the Sharks. So we know what's coming.
It's good actually the way I thought to be, even from the quarter final to the semi final, to be a 2 week break, but it's kind of probably nice for players to have that, keep up that bit of momentum and week on week, and I'm sure they're just hungry to go again.
Exactly. That's what I think. I think sometimes with the breaks, it's you lose momentum. Yeah. You know what I mean? Especially with international lads, because they're managed anyway. Earlier on in the year, not so much now. But it's lovely to be that you can go week on week and get a bit of consistency and good feeling about the team. The team the last 3 or 4 weeks now has been very similar.
Yeah.
Well, throughout the year, we wouldn't have had that at all. Really.
I often wondered about that, like, with the physicality, like, is the next week just a complete recovery week to get ready for the next game? Is there any, like,
no,
surely
there's a good bit of biting training, like, again,
yeah.
like, you try and minimise it. On Monday is kind of your install day, and Tuesday then you have high intensity and a longer session, but there's a bit of contact in that, and then tomorrow's session, for instance, it'll be short and sharp, but there'll be a bit of a feeling in that as well, of that physical piece.
Yeah.
But probably this week now we've tapered off, like, again, because we've shortened the sessions by about 5 minutes, just each session. But it's still a high intensity, it's still a good blow on, like. But
yeah, it's actually the same. I often wonder that with the Six Nations, you'd see how would they play the match the following week.
You're trained to it, though. You know what I mean? You're kind of, rugby players are conditioned for that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's That's what you do your pre-season.
I often thought like it's picking up something like a dead leg, which seems because all the tackling is down there. You said, like Sean O'Brien hitting you full on the side of the leg.
Yeah. There is a bit of that, but like I think for every game that you go into, you always have something that's sore. But like nothing major, if you know what I mean. Soreness goes out fairly quickly with it.
Well, it does, yeah. Well, I would have seen that even playing inter-county, or I suppose you get older with club football, you're nearly always sore. There's always something, and then adrenaline, particularly in a big match, adrenaline kicks in, and you just get on with it. You know, you just learn to be sore and get through.
You go through the process then again the following week.
Yeah.
I used to miss that after when I finished playing. I used to say, Jesus Christ, on a Sunday morning, now I'm broke up here, I'm crawling out of bed, like. But I actually miss it. It was for some strange reason you would miss that feeling.
There's nearly a feeling of you
have
to go through
like I'm after working like my bollocks off. I'm after leaving everything out there the day before, and I'm happy about it. Yeah. Even though you're sore. Now I don't like I did at the start. I don't anymore, obviously. But it was one of the things that you'd nearly feel like I haven't done it,
especially after an win there or something.
But even after a loss, and you know, I would have often spoke about, particularly back with the club, you know, like about spending yourself, pushing your body to a place that is uncomfortable, where the head is probably telling you can't, but there's always another bit left. And you know, I always felt waking up the next morning, you know, struggling you pick up the toothbrush to wash your teeth, you know whether you've left it. The manager, you can tell him or your teammates, but you know if you've left everything. And win, lose or draw, there is a satisfaction to get. I certainly did. I said, look, I couldn't give it any more yesterday. And I think I would have been the same as that. Particularly, you got to kick out when you won, and you just, you know, I'm sore, but it's good sore. It's just because, yes, you've given everything, and we got over the line. But I think I'd agree with you on that, Sean. You do miss that sort of that. I've been in a battle. I've been, you know,
in a dark place.
Yeah, but look at it. My battles and your battles were very different battles. But you know what I mean. It was like this sort of. I was in the trenches yesterday, and I got out of them, and I left everything in there. So
it's a nice feeling, I suppose. Yeah,
I'm sore getting out of bed every morning. I don't even do that.
Miss the bed,
when you don't get up till 11 o'clock, that's not me habit.
Bed sores.
God.
Yeah, obviously a bit of early talk as well about Prendergast maybe had a bit of an off day and is kicking and tackling, and kind of there always seems to be a microscope on his game. And even, you know, you flick on to Twitter there this morning and it's odd will the start Ross Byrne, but I'm sure it'd be very disappointing for him. I think we're all Sam Prendergast fans here, but I'd imagine they'll stick with him for the final.
It's just look like everyone's going to have an opinion on him at the minute because of those little flaws in his game, or the flaws in his game, or is he still learning the game, and is he under severe pressure now? Yeah, like is probably the answer to them all. Like, you know what I mean? Everyone's after him, kind of. You know, the media are sewing it into him now every week. But like, he'll just have to get on with that and deal with it, you know, overcome it and get better. But like, he will get better too. Like, he's 22 years of age. His first full season playing like senior rugby. So
what do they expect?
Well, the thing is, they expect this player to be flawless, like. But he's still learning his trade now. He has to, like, on the physical side of it and stuff, like he's going to have to get to grips with that, because that's an international player, has to be physical. It's very simple. It doesn't matter where you play. So, like, but that'll come too. Like, he's, like, as I said, he kind of got fired up last week after he hit the post with a kick, and in the next 2.5 minutes he had made 4 good tackles. Yeah. But no one spoke about that. But he was a bit fired up, like, after missing the kick, made a tackle straight away, got up off the ground, dead offloaded, made another good tackle, chop tackle. Like, another 2 phases later, made another tackle. But like, no one's I suppose saying the positive side of...
Yeah, there's lads all trying to pick holes.
Yeah, it's only picking holes. But anyway, look, Sam will get on with it. He'll learn and he'll be fine. He'll be around for a long, long time.
Yeah, please God. And obviously in Kildare, big win with Joe McDonough. It's great. It was like, seems to be, with playing Dublin now next weekend, like, there seems to be a good atmosphere about it. Obviously weren't fancy to win the Joe McDonough. Lost to Kerry the first day. Seemed like any chance they had was gone, and it's obviously probably Johnny Weeby more football, but everyone was kind of tuned in against Laois and hoping to put in a performance, and they were really good and impressive. And to be in a All-Ireland pre-quarter final is brilliant for Kildare hurling.
Absolutely brilliant. And the war, Podge, like I sat down, we all sat down, we're like the Walt and sitting on the telly for to watch Kildare hurlers, because you don't see Kildare hurlers on the telly.
Yeah.
Obviously the Christy Ring last couple of years you would, but to go from, I suppose, and obviously I'd know Paul Lively very well, and John Dorn, who would have played for years with, and they were up and down, they'd win the Christy Ring, they'd go to Joe McDonough, not get any result, back down, win the Christy Ring. So they were yo-yoing up and down there for years, and I suppose that was the challenge for them. Could they sustain Joe McDonough for a period of time, and then look to make the next step up? But they did that in style. The first year they won a Joe McDonough match in the competition. They went down and won it, and were full value. The hunger, the work rate, the application all over the field, and they had a good bit of experience within the team, and obviously the bit of youth as well. You lads like Jerry Keegan there, who's for years there, soldiering. I thought he was very good. And then you have the two Bournes. Keane in particular was man of the match. Was he was unreal at centre back. So they had that in it. And you were always waiting for Jack Sheridan's bit of magic. I thought, he put the first one over. I thought, right, this is Johnny. Probably the second half or the first half, you were thinking, I need to get him on the ball. But by God, when it mattered most, he came into it, and his goal was phenomenal. So it was a great day for Kildare hurling, and it's probably traditionally we were seen as a football county, and that's just part and parcel of it. But there's phenomenal work going on in hurling. Albeit it's maybe different pockets, and there is new clubs. You've a club in Milltown now. You've Kappa hurling is getting strong. Round Towers, it wouldn't have normally been like 10 years ago. Them clubs weren't there. So you have passionate hurling peoples in different pockets and different clubs, and they're starting to get that going. And obviously you'd see the work that's going on. Like if Pat O'Mara, they're marching Bourne, and I'm Mark Harrell from Maynooth, and there's some phenomenal work going on there. With those lads, they're passionate hurling people, but they're passionate Kildare people as well, and I think it was a great day for them, and more luck to them. It's
any dual players?
No dual players. I suppose a bit like the Kilkenny hurlers, if they decided to play football, they'd be good footballers, there's a few of those. Like Keane Bourne was on the county minor, I think, around the time, I think he would have been this year's under 21 or maybe last year's under 21. He was on the minors that day with James Harris and all these guys.
Yeah, there is. Yeah,
so
Colin McCabe,
another one,
footballer. Obviously, Brian Byrne stepped away to play football, so
James Burke,
midfield for Naas. But I don't think.
They're mad into hurling. The lads are our hurling.
They are, but I'd say. I don't know Brian Byrne that well. I'd say if he had to pick, he'd probably pick hurling, but he gave the football a try the last 2 years. He's a real fit athlete. I just don't think the inter-county game allows you to be a dual player anymore.
Yeah,
you can't.
Well, you see, it's like if Brian Flanagan called you up for it and you said, yeah, no, I'd love to go, but I'm going to miss half the training sessions. You're not going to be on it. That's exactly what you're trying to do. Could they sustain both from a point of view of you need to be really, really good, and you need to have I suppose from a point of view of both managers align and everything. But if you're looking at trying to work on game plans, and you're trying to work on transition or whatever you're trying to kick outs, and he's not there half the time. It's very difficult.
It's a hard one.
And
it's a hard one for him, because he'd probably start. He starts for the lads or the footballers, and he'd actually start for the hurlers as well. So it was a difficult one for him, and I suppose he's probably delighted for the hurlers to win. It's a hard one. It's a hard one there that could be part. Well, he has been part of it, but it is a difficult one, definitely.
But it's across the board. Is there any? is there any dual player playing intercounty?
I don't think
at the
so.
moment? I don't think there is.
No, I don't
Lots
think
of
there
them
is.
could play either or if it was a case of, you know, the schedule or the workload on intercounty had dropped maybe to what it was 20 years ago, which we had dual players, but even at that stage it was
Cadigan, Aidan Walsh, kind of Cork, kind of often because they were strong in both.
Yeah, Sean O'Halpine would have managed both, but it's unheard of now, really, isn't it?
That's it, yeah. The competition is more, and as you say, probably the coaching and, as you said, the tactics and going through everything has gone up a mile. That it's like, you know, so one time you might have said, I'd be hurling away, you'd be out training, you keep the fitness up, but it's all even changed in that regard. And there's just such a demand now. It's 5-6 nights a week.
Yeah, it's not sustainable.
It's full time. Well, you know,
but even at club level, it's difficult to do.
It is,
both, because you're training one night with the hurlers or footballers, and then you have a match. And if you're lucky enough that some counties will go, this is a hurling week, next week's football week, next week's a hurling week. But then some counties wouldn't. You'd have 2 games in the week if hurling and football, which would happen. Alright, you wouldn't have as many hurling games as you would football games because of the number of clubs in Kildare. But trying to stay, like I know from the Kyle Dove lads, they play with Alan Wood, like I don't know how they do it. They're just gone the whole time. So.
And even in that, it's not too bad. Then you go to ladies, and this is over Tinnahealy ladies last year, and they all played Camogie for Knockananna and were really good at both. But the Camogie Association and the Ladies Football Association are 2 different.
One doesn't recognise the other, yeah.
So it's nearly got to Leinster.
Putting heads straight away.
They fixed 2 Leicester semi-finals for the same time on the same day, and trying to get it changed. And then they say to the clubs, "No, well, you may sort it out." And it's like, "For sure you can't." Jesus.
You can't do that, lads.
That's a power struggle too. No one wants to be seen to give way.
No.
But that crowd, as soon as nightfall is there, that'll raise its head again later on.
It will, yeah.
It does every year, which is ridiculous.
How they just don't put it different week. But anyways, we won't solve that today. And obviously, just with the Lions, a few injuries, but good news for Finlay Beelum, I suppose.
Finlay brought in.
Nice to get a call up.
I think he deserves it as well. I would have thought, to be honest with you, I would have thought Finlay was probably ahead of Tig in the pecking order initially. And the reason why, because he just played all the games in the last while, and then we didn't know whether Tig was everyone knows Tig's calibre, obviously, but when you get a run of games like Finlay had, and he probably didn't do much wrong, but like his set piece is strong, you know what I mean, he's a real steady player. So sad for Sander Fagerson, because he's been soldiering pretty well as well, and obviously trying to get back from that calf.
He's Scottish.
Yeah. But he must have done a right job on it to be ruled out of tour again in his rehab. So maybe he was pushing too much, But again, by the time they leave for Australia, there'll be another few casualties, man. You see.
Yeah. It's a hard one. You can't mind yourself.
But that's the thing. Like, you need to go. This is the time of the year now where you actually should be. In my head, I'd be like, if you're playing at such a level now, you're actually in the framework. You're in the frame for it to be a test starter without playing any pre-Lions games, like any of the provincial games that they'll play. If you're flying now, and that's the thing, I think. Like, there's obviously a few of the Bat lads are still in it over there. We're in it now this weekend, but our lads need to be at a level now of, such intensity. And when the coaches see that, the Lions coaches see that, we go, well, this lad is match ready now.
Yeah, he's hitting form.
He doesn't have to play against Argentina, or he doesn't have to play against whoever they're playing first out in Australia. I haven't even looked at the schedule yet.
Yeah, they're just sharp.
They're just sharp and they're ready to rock. Like,
yeah.
So, there's a bit of that like psychology part in it too. If you're minding yourself in any of these games, that's when you will get broken.
Yeah, it's always the way.
But it's your opportunity. Every time you play, it's your opportunity to show the management or coaches that I'm hitting the form at the right time.
Exactly, yeah.
Having that confidence. So
yeah,
you do have to push hard.
Yeah, no, 100%. So, but no, delighted for Finlay. He's a gas character as well. He'd be a great tourist because he's a fun guy to be around, and
he must have had some sessions because everyone's going crack.
Yeah. We used to call each other. We'd be like you know, in Step Brothers where he goes, "You can call me Dragon, you can call me Nighthawk." so every time we see each other, I'd be like, "Well, Nighthawk," he'd be like, "Well, Dragon." He wouldn't mind saying anything else. Like his missus, I hadn't met his missus, and we met at a wedding last year over in Spain. I hadn't met her, like hadn't like spoke to her written, but like he was walking by me and we hadn't had a chat yet, like, and she was on the other side of me. She goes, I could hear her when he went, "But what did you call him?"
Very good.
Yeah, he's good old crack, so he's Finley, good lad to be around.
Obviously with managers and coaches and talking about, I suppose, pressure, there's like a pressure on Leo Cullen. They might say he's to deliver a trophy, or it's great to say that Kildare hurling manager gets praised, but we see during the week Ange Postecoglou with Tottenham Hotspur. I just thought it was a really interesting one. Spurs hadn't won a trophy, I think it was 23 years. He was brought in to win a trophy, finished 17th in the league, but they'd given that up kind of a while to go because they were going to avoid relegation, so it wasn't a threat, and focused on the cup. Won the Europa League, qualified for the Champions League, and then got fired. got fired the other day. And I just thought, like, it is, and it's in every sport now, whether it be soccer or rugby or J, like, there is awful pressures and expectations. Like, look, see it with Mayo fans on McStay's back, or, you know, Johnny, you were involved there with Kildare, and sometimes then if things aren't going well, everyone's on Glen Ryan's back to go straight to the manager. Like, there's always such an expectation, and it probably comes back to social media, and everyone has an opinion and it's seen, but like, it's just gone crazy, isn't it?
Well, like, you'd wonder what that man had to achieve for him saying, "Oh no, we're not sacking you." Like, what did he not achieve that's achievable for Spurs? Yeah. That'll say you're safe now. It's the same with Ranieri or Claudio Ranieri, or
when he won with Leicester, yeah, in the following
season. Leicester won the Premiership.
Yeah.
Like,
and then he doesn't match it the following year, so
and like, they got rid of him.
Yeah,
like,
no, it is.
But it is mad, and it's sport. But again, I have a problem with it because you have to look and see, right? And I don't understand the goings on in other sports, but like, people hire or put someone, a manager in place. So Mayo decided, well, we're getting Kevin McStay, one example of, to put him in place to manage the team. Okay, what does that mean? What do we actually want him to do here? Like, if it's a case of, we want you to win the All-Ireland, well, he's not going to do that, because it takes so many other people to, he might be ahead of it when it happened. Yeah. Like, is the fact that Armagh won the All-Ireland final last year solely down to Kieran McGeeney? It's not, like. So what I just don't like. I'd love someone to say, well, look at it. Is he doing a good job? Like, you know, you can get the best. You can get Jim Gavin and put him in Waterford footballers. He's not going to win the All-Ireland. Like, he's not. No matter how long he's there. But are we getting green shoots? Are we getting the best out of what we have? You know, is it a case of, well, look at, we're building something here that may take
the bigger
10 years.
Picture.
Yeah,
the bigger
or
picture.
We have a plan in Allen Wood for the next, and we have to get the numbers up. But we've got to get into the schools. We got to build to something. Now, if it's all down to the point of that triangle, for want of a better word, or that pyramid, is our senior footballer manager, he can't be all to blame. Yeah. You know, and that's so you're going to have your social medias, you're going to have your faceless keyboard warriors and all that, and that's fine. They're there and they're a platform, but it shouldn't influence the decision makers. You know, I had this thing of, like, managing, resigned after the game. If I was chairman of Allen Wood, or if I was county board chairman, and said to me, I'm resigning, I said, no, you're not. You're not resigning. You take a week. We'll sit down. We'll go through what you're doing. We're not defining you on this result, because one of 1,000 things could interfere with that. Yeah. So that's what leadership is. Let's look at the people that put this person in place and let them sit around with them and say, right, is this the best appointment we have? What's going on? Are we supporting? Is there a pathway for players to come in? But it's the easy thing to say is, it'll take a bit of pressure off me. The crowd, the dogs in the street are calling for his head. I think it's bullshit.
They were calling for his head though weeks before even the final. Like,
it was a funny one. They were saying he had to win it. So any other year, the amount of points they got in the Premiership, I think would have got them relegated. But at the same time, if they needed to win a few of them games coming up to they would have won. They kind of said, right, they were safe. They were going to finish maybe either 14, 15, 16 or 17. So they were putting out kind of second teams because they were concentrating on just win the Europa League. But then it's like he's sacked on the back of finishing 17th and his points tally, and they lost the record 22 games. But he put out the focus into winning a cup, and like that's what the fans were happy about. Tottenham Hotspur fans, 23 years, haven't won a trophy, finally have something to celebrate, and you get into the Champions League. But sometimes I also think it's funny, like say then you have the Man United manager who's finished 16th, one place ahead, and they haven't got Champions League. But when he came in first, he kind of said, well look, it's going to be a storm before it gets any better, and things are going to be bad. And I think it kind of gives him a bit of time nearly then, because he said that it's like, well, he said it was going to be bad, so it kind of gives him that time to get bad. But like, if he doesn't start next year, well then, he's probably gone. But like, it just chops and changes. And look, you see, it could be in GA or soccer, you see in some soccer clubs like Watford, they might have 10 managers in the last 2 or 3 years, and like sometimes you say, well, hold on now, maybe it's not, maybe you need to look at something else.
Doing the same thing.
Yeah, and so it can be funny, but like there is, as I say, no matter what, like, you know, no doubt Connacht have got Lancaster, like, but there'll be a pressure on him then to deliver, and it's a great appointment.
Yeah.
Whoever takes over, whether it be the Ireland
whoever's
coach,
the head man.
Yeah, there does be such a and look, I suppose everything, he is the main man, and everything kind of the focus gets put on him. But
you take Stuart Lancaster. If Connacht don't win the Champions Cup, is he gone? Like, is it?
No.
Do you know what I mean? Like, obviously, you have to look at what this
what
man
is achievable.
What is he doing? What's he building?
Is he
for?
developing players?
Absolutely.
Is there more players in the Irish squad? That'll be Stu's probably. You know, that's what Connacht, that's what the RFU will be looking at him in terms of development. Is he developing younger lads now that are able to stay in Connacht and that are able to feed into the Irish system? That'll be his thing.
And that's what they would kind of
and be competitive, like,
same thing.
you know. So we're a small country, like, you know. We've 4 provinces in the rugby side of things. Obviously the GA is massive, like, but like everyone's at professional level, sure, they're all shouting for your head when you don't do well, like, so we all have to take that on the chin. Like, it's not just one man.
Yeah, absolutely.
As you say, Johnny, like, it's like everyone will be saying about Leo and stuff like that, but sure, if Leo's gone, get rid of everyone else. You know what I mean? If you're going to chop someone, like, chop us all.
Yeah.
Because we all have a part to play in it.
Yeah, everyone has their...
But like, listen, behind, like, deep down, you know what you're doing and what you're, you know, achieving or trying to achieve. And what, like we said it months ago, what's success? Like, success is obviously, a trophy is success. But if you don't have a trophy, it's still not a complete failure if you've, after breeding 3 new faces into an Irish team, or, you know, consistently playing with Leinster, or bringing another 5 or 6 lads through your academy, or playing 64 players, you know, 22 of them like come through your academy, or in the last year, let's say. There's all those bits and pieces as well that makes the organisation work, like.
Yeah.
But that's not what people want, I suppose.
No, but again, you take the structure in rugby. You've obviously the IRFU. They want their 4 provinces going well, and they have a way of measuring, because if Leinster are winning, then the other 3 are not. So does that mean they're not going well? Like, their job is to supply, keep players playing in the provincial system, and then the more quality coming through to the Irish setup. So there's a plan, and they put people in place to do that. Where I have an issue is like that. Brian Flanagan's not doing well. Oh, sure, we'll get rid of him. Yeah, let's get rid of him because he's the problem. Instead of saying, well, actually, what are we doing as a county? And I'm just using Kildare. We can use any county, Cara, and what are we all going to, what is the end product? And if you get to the end product and say, right, if that is a case of, well, you know, a reasonable thing for, okay, we want to be get to Division 1, play in Division 1 over the next few years, that's our end point. And else the bone win. But are we making decisions based on that, and that's going to help that, not to keep that club happy or this club happy. There's hard leadership and to be involved. There's hard, unpopular decisions to be made. And you have to make those.
That's what I think with the likes of Carlo even, you know. I know you've mentioned there, but when you look at some of the lads who are involved in running of Carlo, and you see schedule and matches and all the bits and pieces, even the like high performance centre or the centre of excellence, no changing rooms, you know what I mean? Nothing built there yet. Like, sure, that starts at the top. Like, that's them who are driving it. Like, it's not. It won't be Joe Murphy, but if Carlo aren't going well next year, for instance, and Joe is still over him, it'll be Joe Murphy's fault. It won't. No one will say, "Oh, it's the county board's fault," or it's they've no proper training facilities, or obviously the pitches there are class stuff. Yeah, but you drive in and it's prefabs. Like, what other county setup in the country has that? None. So, like again, like all that type of stuff, and it's just organisations. There needs to be a plan there, though. I don't think there's a plan at the minute in Carlo, like a real good plan, like to actually work towards, and then finding the right people to put in place to work towards that plan is the next thing. You know, lads and business people is what Carlo need. You know, to drive on that whole thing, because I think there's going to be when that place starts being built, God only knows what it'll turn into. It could be anything.
But it is. You're right. Like, and wherever our games are, whatever you need to attract people to it, and it's setting the standard as high as possible to like people buy people. Like, you can say, well, you know, I want to get involved in the GA. Well, what does that mean? You're getting involved with people. And if you see someone in a club or a county board that has a vision, a plan, you know, Michael Dignan is probably the obvious. No, don't get me wrong. There's problems in Offaly hurling and football. There is, like, you're not gonna. But you felt that they had things in order, and they had a good structure, and they got. Look, obviously he's a great profile. He speaks very well. He's, you know, and he was someone that was willing. He was on the telly. But he was willing to put his money where his mouth was and jump in. And, you know, then he's pulling Shane Lowry in to try back. So from the outside looking in, they're in a good place. And results...
Yeah, no, they start to see a bit of success.
People want to be part of something a successful... You know, I've often said it, my dad, when we won the championship, the one and only championship we won in 2004, my dad was chairman of the club and the senior team was going well. And, like... There was years there, he said, we're trying to raise a few bob for the club, and it'd be like pulling teeth. There was lads coming to him with money, here, throw that in for the boys, throw it's an expensive time for the club, because they wanted to be, I contributed to that. It might be only something small, someone might never know. So it's the same with anything you're involved in. Be the best. You know, so now maybe we're going away from the original point, but
no, it is. There are so many parts, like, and I suppose even, you know, growing up, you know, lads, you might have played under a manager that kind of shaped your career, like, or, you know, shaped, like, you know, if I look at mine, you know, whatever, if I thought with Kildare Miners with Brian Murphy, and like Brian was class, like, and lads just loved him, and like, I suppose we left, you know, we were beaten in a Leinster final by Dublin. The following year we were shooting after beating Dublin in the first round, and we got beat, but like
it wasn't good as psychology part of the game.
Oh, jeez, no, I don't even want to think about the game we lost. But like, he brought there was so many lads off that team that went on to play senior. But like, Brian was, like, I remember sitting down, I thought I'd never play for Kildare, and I was delighted to make the minor panel. And then I was starting, and I remember him sitting down with him one day, and he said, "Look, you're going to play many years with Kildare seniors." And he kept talking. I don't know what he said after that, but I remember thinking, Jesus, he believes that I could. And I thought it could be a million miles away, and that's all nearly I took from the meeting, but gave you belief. But he was just so brilliant. I used to love, like, maybe it's different with young lads now, you'd be going in to play a match and he'd turn on the Curragh Kildare and we'd all have to sing it. But like, it was deadly, and he just created a real good bond among the players, and, you know, really enjoyable. And as you say, maybe we didn't win a trophy, but so many of that team went on to play for senior for Kildare and have really good club careers and stuff like that. So, which is an important side. Obviously at minor 20s you want to win, but you're trying to develop players for the senior team. Like, I suppose with either of you, was there ever kind of a manager, even at underage, or Tullow or Allenwood, or Kildare or anything that kind of just gave you that kind of, you know, maybe helped shape you in a way that was important to you?
Go ahead, Johnny. You
Right,
go
I'll
first.
go. Look at it. There's lots of people. It was that influence you, and I always felt that when you were young and you know you're a sponge and you're looking for information. There was obviously your closest one was always your dad, who was always there with you, believed in you, picked you up when you fell and all that. Both your parents, your mother as well, but I think that when I started really getting interested in football was in the school, and at that time you played school until you were finished school, and then like my first match for the club I was 13, where you think the girls at home have played 100 matches maybe, you know, at this stage between all the things, and they're only 11, so there's so much football. But so the school teacher, we had a guy from Kerry, Lisbon, was Seamus Hannafin, and even the fact that he was from Kerry, you know, you felt he was a huge part of, you know, making sure. And he lined us up again when we be coming, and he'd look at your boots, and he'd say, your boots are dirty. You should clean your boots. You don't see a carpenter coming to work with a blunt saw. You know, they were the tools you're trade, and that was something that just resonated with me all the time. So there was loads of those type of people. There was another guy I actually worked for. He would have played with Alan Wood. I worked for him during the summer and stuff like that, and then he brought me onto the senior team, a guy called Lawrence Dunn, and little things even in work he would have said to me, you know, about, you know, pride in what you do. You know, you'd rush to get a job done, and he'd look at it, is that you at your best now? He'd be, oh fuck yeah, you know, Jesus, you didn't want to let him down. But they were huge things when you look back. Yeah. You know, be the best you can be. And so there was loads of that, without getting into the Mick O'Dwyers and Kieran McGeeney's and Pádraig Knowles and all those, you know, you grab. But I think at an early age, you know, and when you were best in the best position to be shaped, I think those people are huge. Like that time was Seamus Hannafin was one, and I said Lawrence Dunn, who brought me from a 16-year-old into the senior team as man. But it was all the other little things about, you know, who are you? What do you want to be known as? What, you know, is that the best? Is that you at your best? You know, that was always in my mind. You know, are you being the best you can be? So I suppose they were probably two examples. Yeah, you know.
Good.
I had a fella called Pat Doyle for Ballon. He was a Ballon man. He passed away. He passed away a good few years ago now. But he was an army officer actually, and I remember going to my first whatever it was, under 8s or 10s football training, and he was real old school, like, so laps, like he was doing laps, like sure everyone, all the kids, like we hated doing laps, but he used to say, lift your feet, he says, they'll fall themselves, like. Yeah. But him and another man called Joe Whelan were over us like nearly the whole way through till we got under 14s or 16s. Actually no, he stayed with us till we were minors, Pat did, but Joe went probably 14s or 16s. But the two of them were so passionate about it, but again it was all about work rate and you know doing your best. Joe would be that way, but he'd be fierce loud. He'd nearly think he was shouting at you. Yeah. You know what I mean? But he was hard to hear and say was Joe. You know, he lives up the road from me now, but I always remember like Pat definitely instilled that like bit of work and grunt and that side of it, like, in you at that stage, without knowing it when you look back, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you look
back. And he was never hard on you either. He was like, he'd always put his arm around you and say, oh, if you lost the game, right? I remember in Air Og when we lost the Air Og tournament one year, and we were after playing so well, like, and we had a great little team. But he was like, we'll win it next year. He said, everyone will be all right. He said, because they're all young, a year young or whatever, and we did win it next year. But like stuff like that, I would have remembered from the early days.
But you have such an appreciation of those people now. Like, I know some of the coaches we had in the club, like, you know, didn't have sons involved in, just because the club needed someone to like. And there's some of the messing we used to do, like I'd say we drove them mad.
Drove them crazy.
You know, like lads, we were doing like that. You were doing laps, and at that time you might have only 2 or 3 bad lights, and you get down to the dark corner, there'd be 3 or 4 lads hiding in the corner, and they come up on the second lap. I remember one stage we could be under 14 or under 15, and you know, we a coach in the morning, and I played with Enda for years after. But he was getting the idea of, you know, you're putting a ball in. He said, put into space. So like, you know, put into space. And one of the lads got the ball and he drove it straight up into the air. He said, what are you doing? He said, you said to kick it into space. You know, we all fell around the place laughing at this, you know. And he's there trying to organise a session on his own, like, you know, we hadn't done it. But they were great crack, like, you know. It's just, but you've some appreciation for those people now, because I do with patience of them.
Yeah. I suppose we doing highlight, low light of the week. I'm sure he's had a good stern think about this.
Highlight of my week was what was my highlight now this week? I know highlight was probably the game at the weekend. It was a good game, good intensity to it and stuff. So I was happy for the lads because, you know, they were challenged again last weekend. You know what I mean? On every side, every way. And it's kind of like the media are going after them a lot as well at the minute. You know what I mean? They're, you know, sledging everyone really. Yeah,
ever since the loss.
Ever since the loss, yeah. So that was the highlight. Low light. What was low light this week? Low light was probably having to go to London for that pre-op today, to be honest.
Pre-op, was it?
Jesus. Yeah, pre-op for my hip. So, so hopefully that goes through now next week.
We have to be wheeling you in now, will we?
I've been on crutches for 4-6 weeks, I think. So 4 weeks, I'd say 3 would be off from Johnny. I don't like crutches. I think I was off lessons after 2 in the house. So.
Yeah. Quick healer.
Yeah. Hopefully. Please God.
Yeah. My highlight and my low light happened the same day, to be honest with you. So, no, it's not straightforward with me. But so Saturday we went to Selbridge, Nafina, who was our lady side of the house in Allenwood. They were playing in the final, under 13 final against 2 Mile House, and so they won, which is great. Twins at home, absolutely delighted. And for my sins, I got to do umpire, which is fine. Another lad I know from 2 Mile House, we had a great whole chat about everything bar the match in front of it. But it was probably the most frustrating match I was ever at. I don't know who was refereeing it, never seen him before, but I'd safely say he was close on 100 frees in the match. Every time whistle blown, and the actions matched all the frees. There was this and this and this and you just let them play. Under 13 girls, I swear to God. And everyone I spoke to, the ref's so frustrating. He was so frustrating. He just kept blowing. Like there wasn't a tackle in the thing. Like under 13 girls there. And they were going at it, hammer and tongs, and the Fianna had beaten them up by a good bit in the early round. But they were, it was nip and tuck. The girls got a couple of scores, maybe a little bit easier or whatever. But it was the makings of a great. And every 10 seconds there was a free. I was there.
That would frustrate you.
Yeah, and it was frustrating the kids.
Sometimes in ladies football you get refs that are really like you just can't touch them at all.
Oh, it was so frustrating. It was. I said, how could there be any enjoyment? There was no enjoyment watching it. So you can imagine. And there was loads of finals on. I think there would have been 6 finals on in both pitches, and it was great set up, and it was crowds were there, and one team was cheering when that team won, and it was just a great atmosphere over there. But it was windy, and it was showery, and I was like, just let them
the game
play.
On.
Come on.
I got caught.
So, but we won, which
that was the highlight.
What's the low light?
Oh no, the low light was the ref.
The low light was the ref.
I got caught, or a ref got caught. We were playing a challenge last year with Tinhealy. We were playing Dunboyne, and we found a pitch halfway in Kilmac in up around Bray. So there was a list of referees that was given at the start of the year. So I texted the lad and I said, he was down as Bray, so any chance he could referee this ladies game at 7 o'clock Saturday evening? And he texts back, yeah, no bother. So anyways, minute to 7, I was like, Jesus, I hope this fucking ref now shows up. This like come out around the corner. When you said 100 frees, I thought you were going to say he was 100. He was as owl as, and came out and he was all sort of shape, and he came up and he goes, is this seconds or first? I said, first team. Oh, bollocks, I haven't done one in a while. I said, you'll be grand. So about a minute into the game anyway, I was watching him because I said, this lad's going to fucking have a heart attack out here. So he went to run then, and he took him out with a step, and he goes, it was like, fuck that. It was like he was testing himself. the whole game. Brian was going up and sweating. He says, "This is, you may call it off." He says, "That's your man." It was horrendous. But anyway, luckily enough, it was a clean game. He don't think he blew the whistle once. Every time he went to blow it, it was too late. Something else had happened. Had to go down and apologise to their lad, their manager into the game. Oh, it was awful.
The
poor man.
No.
I texted him the next day. Because I just had to make sure he was still alive. I texted him and said, "Thanks a million for last night." I said, "You really let the game flow. It was a great job." And he just texted me back, thanks a million. So I was just glad to get the message back.
That's a big lie now. You shouldn't have texted that like.
I think he knew himself. The referee's kit still had the creases on it. I'd say he was getting new ones for the last few years and never heard them. Oh man, but anyways. Yeah, quickly, my highlight, I'll keep it simple. Sure, the highlight was the Kildare Hurlers winning. Low light, I'd say, it's not my low light, but Laois GA seemed to be struggling. It's mad how, their football team went out against Westmeath, they just seemed to have dropped off loads in the last few years. Like, they were really up competing there. Obviously, Miko's time, but, they're a proud enough football county there, especially in football. They just seem to have dropped way off in look, I'm sure they do have decent players, and obviously Johnny, Evan, Evan O'Carroll, top footballer. I don't think he was around.
But again, there is good work going on there. I know, like a few former players, like Chris Conway's heavily involved there, obviously in Knockbeg and that, but he's involved with the under 14s again, getting back in just to try put them on the right road, and that's all you can do. Like there's a lot of good work going on in Laois, and I suppose maybe it's a numbers game and stuff like that. But like that, when you see a result like that come in, for Laois, who we would have battled with and been on the wrong side of a lot of hard luck stories against Laois, to see them maybe drop off that little bit. But I think those things can turn very easily. Like obviously. You've Enda McNulty in there now, and he's a good lad, and he's been there before, and Ross Munley's involved there with the seniors. Like they're good football people, and they're a passion for Laois. So there's loads of different things that can, lads going travelling, and but we would have, like 2 years ago, where were Donegal? People walking away, people going out, and all of a sudden, so it can change if enough people, and it's back to that thing is having a plan, buying into it. Let's get the best people involved and back them, and publicly back them when people are not backing, and that's, I think that's the key for counties,
Yeah, definitely so. So looking forward to this weekend. Then obviously, hopefully Leinster can go and get the job done in Crawford.
Please God,
with a bigger crowd. Than last time. Sure, in Crow Park, I think you were saying, Sean, there before 40,000 tickets sold already. So hopefully that can up, and obviously a big one in Seadrill there. It's actually a joke that the Kildare games aren't on telly, the hurling or the football. Neither of them are on the GA Plus or the RT. I know it'll just make people get off their arse and go, but still.
The problem is now. The problem is now. All the people who want to go, there's not enough tickets for it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I can't understand why, like, Tipperary will hammer Laois, and I'm not saying, I think the handicap in the Dublin Kildare game is 11, but I think Kildare on a high. I think it's a really interesting one. The Dublin, and it's very hard for Laois coming off the back of a loss to Kildare and to go and play a tip. I think the Kildare and Dublin one is a real. It'll have lots of people talking about it and excited for it. And obviously Kildare and Offaly after beating Kildare twice, it's a big one for Kildare. It's two good games, but anyway, it's a good double header to have in Newbridge, and hopefully Kildare can get 2 wins out of it.
And I suppose it's tough on the hurlers, 6-day turnaround, and like you have to celebrate.
You have to.
You can't celebrate that.
Well, it's like you said, they're not going to win the All Ireland. What was their goal?
Absolutely.
And even to win a Joe McDonough, their goal was to stay up, and they went and won it. So of course, Jesus.
But again, 6 days turnaround is tough. But look I'd say it's a free shot for them.
Yeah, exactly.
Dublin are a good hurling county, and it's I think if they can, you'd expect Dublin to have too much for them, particularly the week that, and then what injuries are lads picking up, like James Burke going off. If he doesn't play, I think there's talks of maybe a calf or Achilles injury. So
it is a tough one.
It's a tough one, but then the football is a huge game for Kildare. It literally is do or die. You're gone if you don't win, but it's far from, you know, people saying, oh, well, I was actually talking to an Offaly man yesterday. He said, Asher, you know, we bet you twice, we'll hardly beat you 3 times. And they're, well, it's 1-1 now at this stage. It's you know, and they'll have huge. They'll come to Cathedral saying, here, we can win this, and they've got huge confidence. And again, depending on Kildare with injuries, you know, like last year we lost Jimmy Hyland, we lost Ben McCormack, you lost Callum Bolton, Brendan Gibbons got a bad knock and went off. So how did they recover? So it's going to be an interesting week, and looking forward to both games actually. Going into Cathedral. If you, I'll text you if you didn't get tickets yet. No,
I haven't got my ticket.
Yeah, I have mine. But so I'll text you how it's going.
I committed to a barbecue anyway. I listen on the radio.
I might swap your tickets out. I go to the barbecue.
I could do without it, and you could do with it. That's shocking. Thanks, thanks a million, lads. No, that's great. Thanks to everyone that's tuned in for week 14 of All About the Game podcast in association with Clinched. You can download our app wherever you get your apps. And you can download our podcast on wherever you download your podcast. Jesus, it's been a long week already. Thanks for tuning in. Good luck. Thanks, lads.